made it. Hey, everybody, welcome. I am Mary from Mary's Heirloom Seeds, and I try to go live here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Time. If you have not already, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Tonight, we're going to talk about lots of awesome stuff. We have the topic today is Mary's top fives and customer faves. So I went through my system to see what customers really like the best. And of course, I didn't even have to worry about what I like because I know what I like. Alrighty, so I try to go live here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Time. It gets a little crazy during the winter time. It gets super crazy during the summertime. So just bear with me here. Every now and then it'll be a little different. Hey, Off-Grid World, thanks for joining me. In the description section of this video, every week I mention this, you will find a link to my comprehensive planting guide. That is so important. Esther's daughter, Caitlin, Jackie Jax, thanks for joining me. It's crazy all the time. Of course, when you're growing food and you're harvesting and seeds, behind me here is the seeds for my school garden donation program, and it's not dwindling, but you can definitely see where there's some missing stuff in here. I have been sending out so many seeds for school gardens. I am super excited. So there really isn't like a mellow time here around the homestead, because even during, hey Spartacus, thanks for joining me. Even during the slower time when people aren't necessarily buying seeds, I'm working on my gardens. I'm working on garden plans. So yes, it's always crazy here. All right, so I mentioned on Facebook, if you don't follow me on Facebook, you probably should, if you're on Facebook anyway, because, I mean, sorry, I got to get my water. I know a lot of people aren't on Facebook. I mentioned that I have a super exciting announcement to make. Hey, Asia Joe, thanks for joining me. I'm glad you haven't placed your order yet, because I have something exciting to share with you. Hey, Kelly. Nice to see you as well. I am staying warm. I got my flannel on and I'm indoors today. It is going to be cold this weekend. It has been off and on, like between like morning times is high 30s and afternoon times or high 50s. It's going to get in the 20s next week. So that should be fun and exciting here on the homestead and also working in the seed shop. So tonight's topic is Mary's top picks and customer faves. I know what I like, and I went through my system to see what customers order the most of. But while I'm talking with you, you guys are more than welcome to share your favorites as well that you purchased from Mary's Heirloom Seeds. Please keep it on topic. I really prefer to keep it within the Mary's Heirloom Seeds realm. Any kind of promotions of other seed companies will get removed, and I have an awesome moderator waiting for me. First and foremost is beans. I love beans. They are super easy to grow. They're a fantastic first gardener crop. Hey, Shawnee Grows, thanks for joining me. Sorry, bring my bin over here so I have a place to put my water. Beans are super easy. Oh, I totally forgot. A couple updates. I added an events page at Mary's Heirloom Seeds, and I will be adding more events as they come up. But if you go to marysheirloomseeds.com, you will see that the events page is listed at the top in the header. I will be in Mineola at Sorelli Farms in January. I will be in Longview at the Gregg County Master Gardeners. I'm speaking at all of these events in February. I will be in the Kaufman County Master Gardener speaking to them in March. And holy cow, hey Michelle, thanks for joining me. Definitely hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Holy cow, I was just asked to speak at the East Texas County Fair. I am so excited. I spoke to the Van Zandt County Extension office, or not office, but they asked me to teach a class there last year. And then this year, Smith County asked me to go to the fair and teach 2 demos. So I wrote it down because I was so excited about it. I knew I'm going to forget. And it's this is planning like way in advance. Hey, Missy, thanks for joining me. Friday, September 19th in Tyler, Texas, I will be teaching 2 demos. I don't know if they're going to be the same topic. I don't know if they're going to be two different topics, and that is at 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Holy cow, I'm super excited. All right, so my favorite beans are Jade Bush beans, hands down, the best producer that I've ever grown. And even one of my customers rated it. Thank you very much, Caitlin. And you're close by. Maybe you can come join me. One of my customers rated it as better than Blue Lake. And if you look at, well, if I looked at what my customers buy most of, it's Blue Lake bush beans because it's a very famous bean. And so Jade Bush bean in my garden has outperformed the Blue Lake. So maybe next year it'll be a customer favorite. Maxibel French Filet. It's also a bush bean and it is fabulous, but really kind of a fun and weird colored seed. So if you are unfamiliar with what bean seeds look like, some of them are white, some of them are tan. The Jade Bush bean has a slight green tint to it. The Maxibel is just bursting with colors. The next one that I love is a Roma bean, and it is what's called a semi-runner. It is not a bush bean. It is not a pole bean. It kind of sprawls a little bit, so you got to give it a little space. And then also Painted Lady Runner bean. Not only are the beans themselves beautiful, but the plant is gorgeous, and it just climbs like 20 feet if you give it some space. So definitely these are some of my favorites, and then I've got some customer favorites I'll share with you later. Beets. Not everybody likes beets, but Chioggia beet is my favorite because it looks like a peppermint candy when you slice it in half, and so it looks gorgeous when you can it. And then golden beets. Now, the customer favorite is Detroit dark red beet. And so, I mean, that's one of those things. So Kelly, I'll have to look for a stringless pole bean for you that's purple. This stringless purple bean that I use is Royalty Purple Potted Bean, but it is a bush bean. And then when you cook it, it turns green-ish. So it's not a true purple bean. So Detroit dark red is the customer favorite. It is the highest ranking or like reviewed beet on my website. And it's a very popular beet. Hey, Laughing Gardens, thanks for joining me. But I like the Chioggia because it's beautiful and it looks amazing roasted as well. And then I also like the golden because it's a little bit on the sweeter side. So mine are going to be slightly different. And if you notice, as we go through my favorites, these are not varieties that you're going to see in the grocery stores. These are varieties that are heirloom. They have been passed down for generations, and they are just way more unique than some of the grocery store varieties that you have readily available all the time. Pickled beets are gorgeous as well. Now, carrots. I like the Black Nebula carrot. It is weird. It is not your typical orange carrot. And my friend Inga, she used it to actually, I think she dyed her rice with it. So she diced up some of the Black Nebula carrots and put it in with her rice, and it turned it like a purplish gray color. It was kind of weird, but she thought it was fun. And that was my favorite. It's not your typical carrot because, again, when you go to the grocery store, what kind of carrots do you see? Orange. And so the customer favorite at Mary's Heirloom Seeds is Scarlet Nantes carrot because that's your typical red orange carrot that is super popular and very easy to grow. And if you haven't seen my post about growing carrots using the cardboard method, definitely check it out. I will post it to my YouTube channel as well so that you guys can see it. I'll probably send it out in an email as well. If you haven't already signed up for my emails, you can sign up at marysheirloomseeds.com. Scroll down to the very bottom where there's a little box for the newsletter and then enter it in there. Hey, Dreamweavers, thanks for joining me. So corn. I don't really eat sweet corn or corn products as much. I grow them for seed, but I don't eat as much of it. But I love popcorn, and I love growing popcorn because it's super fun. So the varieties of corn I chose as my favorites are popcorn varieties. And the top is Glass Gem. It is gorgeous. It is pretty, it is colorful, and it really adds a lot of pizzazz to your garden. But it doesn't pop colorful, it pops white. And my second choice is the early pink popcorn. I loved that variety. Again, it is gorgeous. If you look at the pictures on my website, it's a good one. What grow zones for popcorn? So I don't use zones, I use frost dates. And so for annuals in particular, your zone doesn't really matter, it's your frost dates. The early pink popcorn can be grown in almost any. I would say maybe minus Alaska, depending on where you are. But corn is anywhere from 110 days of frost-free date. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to, this is what I do. Okay, you're in Canada. I use the Old Farmer's Almanac. I enter in my zip code, and using that zip code, the Old Farmer's Almanac tells me what my last frost date is, which is my spring frost date, and my first frost date, which is my fall frost date. And here in Ben Wheeler, Texas, East Texas, we have 223 frost-free days. And so I use those dates to determine when I can plant outside. So if popcorn is an annual, you want to know what your frost-free days are in order to determine when to plant and what you can plant. And corn doesn't really like to be transplanted. So you want to plant them direct sow. So that early popcorn, the early pink popcorn might be a good one for you because the growing season is shorter for that one compared to say a flower popcorn, or a flower corn, which is like 110 days. Hey, David, thanks so much for joining me. I know you've been a little busy as well. I'm gonna talk about my favorite peppers pretty soon. So we talked about corn. Now my customer favorite on the corn. Oh, that's right, the coulis corn. It is beautiful. I totally forgot about that one. And that's a sweet corn as well. The customer favorite on the corn is the golden bantam sweet corn. It is a very, very popular sweet corn. So it's no wonder that our customers like it as well. Now the coulis corn, if you haven't checked it out, is beautiful. There is a drink that people have made out of it, and I don't know what it's called, but it's like a purple sweetened sweetened drink using that corn. Definitely check that out. I have grown that as well, and it is gorgeous. The purple is so strong in that. You can probably use the husks for something as well too. Now, I also learned, now listen to this real quick, because somebody asked me, well, Mary, what about those baby corns? Are those GMO? Are they something weird? Like, what are we eating when I get those like stir fries with those little mini baby corns? And I was like, well, that's a great question, because I had never even thought about what are those baby corns. Japanese hulless popcorn, from what I have learned, and I'm going to try it out. I'm going to experiment this year. Japanese hulless popcorn can actually be harvested early before the kernels are actually fully formed, and you can pickle those tiny corns to eat them like the ones that you get in the stir fries. Oh yeah, definitely. Asia just mentioned. Okay, so if you follow Mary's Heirloom Seeds on Facebook, you may already know this, but you may not. I started a Friends of group for Mary's Heirloom Seeds, and it's called Mostly Feral Gardeners, because some days I'm mostly feral, some days I'm totally feral. It really just depends on what day you get me. So yes, definitely join my Mostly Feral Gardeners group, because I've got a ton of information that I share there as well. But the Japanese hulless popcorn is what I will be growing. Yes. Off-grid world, you might be newer to my channel. Sometimes I'm wearing my Mostly Feral Gardener shirt. And we actually made like Mostly Feral Gardener cups. This is my Mary's Heirloom Seeds cup. This is a 30-ounce reusable stainless steel lifesaver in the garden, because I forget to stay hydrated sometimes, and that can be really rough on you when it gets to be, I don't know how hot it gets to be where you are, but it gets to be 100, 110 outside. Sometimes I'm in the garden, sometimes I'm hiding out in the seed shop in the air conditioning. But the stainless steel cups are awesome. All right, before I go any further, I'm going to share my announcement. Asia Joe says I was in another group, mentioned your site, and someone said she loves your seeds. So I responded, hello, Feral Gardener. That is so awesome, Asia. Thank you. And by the way, thank you, Asia, for sharing my information in Roots and Refuge. I try not to share my posts in other large groups like that because it's like spamming it. But my school garden donation program is alive and well and sharing everywhere. And I saw that you shared it in Roots and Refuge, and I really appreciate that. So if you've been watching this for the last 15 minutes and you're going, Mary, be quiet and tell me what your awesome announcement is. So I'm going to share my awesome announcement right now. I'm going to give you 10% off your entire seed order starting today, which is Thursday, February? No, January 16th. I'm looking at this in kind of the dark. So today is Thursday. It is January 16th. It is 5:16 p.m. 2025. Drum roll. I decided I want to give you guys 10% off your next order, and a couple of people reaching out to me, and it is literally like the busiest time of the year for seed companies. But what better time to give customers an opportunity to save and maybe stretch their seed budget? Life is difficult for some people, and I totally understand that, but I also want to help you guys grow a better garden. So if you want to save 10% off your next seed order between now, January 16th, through Tuesday, January 21st, 2025, remember? So if you're watching the replay, I can't really help you there. The discount code is GROW2025. So the word GROW, GROW, and the number's 2025. So if you use that code right now, you're going to save 10%. Oh, awesome. And Asia Joe, one of the admins there, is an awesome customer of mine and whatnot. So, and I've asked specifically if I can share stuff there every now and then. So I do appreciate it. Kelly says, I'm looking for comfort and was told, make sure a Russian, Comfrey. Comfrey, the Russian kind is sterile. The seeds are sterile, and you have to buy it as a start. It is not an heirloom variety. So I will not have the Russian blocking Comfrey. If you want regular Comfrey that is an heirloom, we have something called true Comfrey. And the reason behind that, before I go on to this, the reason behind the people saying that you need the Russian variety versus true Comfrey is they say that true Comfrey is invasive in that it spreads by seed. But here's the problem. Comfrey is amazing. It is a fantastic soil amendment. So I have zero issues with my Comfrey self-seeding and giving me free plants. So there are some people out there that say it's horrible, it's invasive, whatever. It's natural. So if you want to find Russian Comfrey, definitely find it. But it is a hybrid that is sterile, so the seeds don't grow. And we only sell seeds. We don't sell a lot of plants. So just to throw that out there at you. Totally fine, whichever you choose. But I always like to add that extra layer of education because there's so many different trains of thought. You can literally take that Comfrey plant and pull it up before it goes to seed, and it's not going to self-seed. And Altered Ego, it's sold out right now because we are literally, before I left the seed shop, we were starting to package it up, new packs for 2025. So when I'm done here, I will update my website so that it is available. Let's see. Esther's Otter says, can we grow corn in 100-gallon grow bags? Absolutely. Off Grid says, yep, it's a soil builder, nitrogen fixer, and animal fodder. Absolutely. And Dream River says, I've done a few posts on invasive plants, and I think I'm due for another. Yes, invasive doesn't always mean bad. Lemon balm, mints, spearmints. I grow the heck out of those things. I love them. Catnip. I put them in my raised beds and people freak out like heads exploding because it's a mint and how dare you grow it in the ground. The reason being is because I like those crops. I don't mind that they spread throughout my garden, and I don't mind because it's free food. It's free animal fodder. It's free compost material. It's free food and tea for myself. Lemon balm tea, spearmint tea is fantastic for you. And I have cats that eat catnip and lemon balm. So it's a win-win for me because I get free food from it. And so I hope that you got some information on that wasn't not trying to be confrontational, but I do like to share some information on that as well. Now, eggplants. Some people love eggplants and some people hate eggplants. Dreamweavers, I had a friend who had mint in her front yard, and she said every time she mowed her yard, it smelled like a mojito and she loved it. So it really just depends on what you're doing and what you're growing. And I've had people request catnip as a bulk variety just so that they could have a ground cover that wasn't weeds. Inga says, and you are a feral gardener, so it comes with a package. Yes, ma'am, I am. Eggplants are one that some people love them, some people hate them. My husband will say a little bit of eggplant goes a long way, but it really depends on how I prepare it. So there's that too. Pretty much anything with pesto sauce, he'll eat. So Petch Siam, I love for the uniqueness factor. It is a round, small eggplant, like this big, literally. And I've got small hands, so you may not really realize how big. I'd say golf ball size. And it's green and it has like stripes on the top of it. So it's a light green, like a lime green with dark green tiger stripes on the top. Gorgeous. So I love it for the uniqueness factor. But for a production, I really like the Aswad eggplant. Now, because it's so gorgeous and it's big and it's round and it's beautiful. Now, my customer favorites are the Black Beauty eggplant. If you go to the grocery store and you see the purple eggplant, the standard purple eggplant, that's not the super skinny one, but the nice round one, that is most likely Black Beauty eggplant. It could be a hybrid, but it's the standard. Black Beauty is what a lot of people grow in their garden. Kelly says, I got a tea garden for me to start this coming season. I can't wait. That tea garden is fantastic. It is wonderful. And again, with the invasive stuff, for example, in the herbal tea combo pack, catnip, lemon balm, and spearmint. All three of those are varieties that can be grown in a container if you want to contain it into a small area. Just to give you a heads up. Hey, David, another David's joining me. Patriots Rabbitry's here tonight. We got a lot of our regulars here tonight. So I mentioned earlier in the video, my big announcement was it's that time of year where literally everybody's buying their seeds. Maybe not literally everybody, but it is our busiest time of the year. Is mid-January to the end of March is the busiest time of year at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. And I decided that I know a lot of people are needing more seeds maybe than normal. Maybe you're expanding your garden. Maybe you're going to store some of your seeds for later on just in case. And so you can use the code GROW2025 and save 10% off your entire order between now, January 16th, and January 21st at midnight. So check that out for sure. Greens. I love greens. I love lettuce. I love Swiss chard. I love collards. I love spinach. I mean, I have yet to grow a green that I didn't like. So that was a little tougher of me to find one that was like, what are my top picks? So as far as the non-lettuce varieties, I would have to say Georgia green collards. Beautiful, lovely, grew it for 2 years and it continued to thrive. By the way, hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Lacinato kale, also called dino kale, also called Nero de Toscana cabbage. They're all lacinato kale, and it is fantastic. It is heat tolerant. It is cool tolerant. It is drought tolerant. It thrives in our area, and it thrives in most gardens, so not just my area. Jackie Jack says, I do not need another seed, but I ordered it anyway. All right. And rainbow Swiss chard, because rainbow Swiss chard is just colorful and fun and beautiful. You can plant a seed and get multiple colors, because if you didn't already know this, Swiss chard seeds are generally a cluster of seeds. So you might plant one seed, you might actually get 3 plants for it, and you might actually get 3 plants that are 3 different colors. So super fun on that one. Now, as far as lettuce goes, I like Jericho lettuce because it's heat tolerant. I like wild arugula because it's spicy and it's heat tolerant. I like New Zealand spinach because it's not actually spinach. So it's super fun to eat some of these varieties and grow some of these varieties. New Zealand spinach, actually the seeds are spiky. So you want to talk about being a feral gardener, a mostly feral gardener, what better to grow than something that bites back? So I was pushing the seed down into the soil and it literally stuck into my finger, and I had to go in the house and wash my hands, put a Band-Aid on it. The yellow Swiss chard, David said, that's a really good one too. So the New Zealand spinach is a really good one. The texture almost is like a succulent. It's definitely not a spinach. So if you don't like spinach, but you want something that's going to grow really well, definitely try it. Sorry, I gotta stay hydrated. As it gets colder, I don't drink enough water. So which is why I use these and I bring them with me everywhere I go. So I continue to drink water. Onions. So I really like bunching onions. Oh, Pedro Travers, you said Malabar spinach. Malabar spinach is a vining spinach, and it does really well in warm climates like Florida. So if you like a green that's going to survive possibly through the summer, that might be one for you. I personally like bunching onions. I like the evergreen bunching onions that we carry. Super easy to grow. I literally set it and forget it. I take a handful of seeds, I sprinkle it over the top of the soil. I take a couple of handfuls of coconut coir and I sprinkle it over the top of that, and I'm good. Super easy, super simple. So I really like that. But I forgot. I skipped a point. As far as greens go, my customer favorites are Butter Crunch and Arugula. Go figure. Butter Crunch is super simple and super easy to grow. But that's just something there. But onions, like I said, onions, I really like the bunching onions because they grow really fast. The bulbing onions are good, and that's really going to depend on your region. If you're in the north, you want to plant long day onions. If you're in the south, you want to plant short day onions. If you're in the middle, you want to plant intermediate onions. And that is based on light hours and how they grow and how the light required to bulb. So super kind of the basics on that one. Okra. Okra is awesome. Okra is a super fun one for me. Clemson spineless is probably the best. It's the most prolific in my garden, and it's really good. You can harvest it, and it doesn't have that thick spine on it that some of them are gonna just get too hard for you to actually consume. But I think the prettiest one I grew was the Jing Orange. That was beautiful. So I definitely really like that one. Inga says for spinach you grew Giant Noble. That is a really good one too, and it is more sweeter. I feel like the Giant Noble doesn't have the irony taste that some of the other spinaches do, like the Bloomsdale. And again, some of that is just with age. Now my okra, what I like, it might be different than what you like. But the number one seller at Mary's Heirloom Seeds, Clemson spineless okra. It's probably the number one seller for the entire United States because it is the most popular okra. Peppers. Now, this is a tough one for me. If you don't know, we recently named our stray cat that showed up Sergeant Pepper. One, because all of our cats are named after Beatles songs or Beatles themed something, but also because it's garden related. Pepper, right? For short, we call him Pepper. That's a really hard one for me to decide favorites because I want to say I have like 98 different varieties of heirloom peppers. I have yet to grow a pepper that I didn't like. So pickled okra, yes. I probably have one on my website. If not, I have one that I regularly use, so I can definitely share that later time. My top pepper is probably Tabasco because I love making Tabasco sauce. I love using it in things. You just literally take a handful of Tabascos, toss them in the blender, put some salt, put some vinegar in there, blend it, and you're good. Yellow Scotch bonnets are number 2, only because they're a little on the hotter side, and sometimes you don't necessarily want totally hot. This year, though, I added Fatali peppers as another favorite because I love them. The last time I grew Fatali peppers, they were kind of not so good, but this year they thrived in our summer and everything. So Tabasco, yellow Scotch bonnet, and Fatali are going to be my top 3. And if you notice, they're all hot peppers. I love hot peppers. I'm not a big fan of like the Ghost and the Trinidad Scorpion because it's a little overkill for me. I like the flavor. It has to be hot with flavor. Now, as far as our customer favorites go, the customer favorites for peppers are Cal Wonder Bell, jalapeno, Anaheim, and ancho poblano. Now, I didn't even think about the ancho poblano because I do love those stuffed. I make like a chili relleno almost, or you can make like a giant bacon wrapped jalapeno pepper with ancho poblanos. So those were always good. Let me see. Asia says, I only order the Tabascos because of your recipe you shared. It seems like something fun. Oh, Tabasco peppers are delicious. Hot peppers for fire cider. Cayenne is a really good one for fire cider. David says you love the sweet banana corbachi and yellow piquino. Awesome. Seriously, those are some great peppers also. That's why I said it's really hard for me to choose my favorites because there's so many peppers that we grow. This year was a pepper year. It was a fantastic pepper year here at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. I grew a bunch and I love them. So that's just one of those things. Radish. Hands down, watermelon radish, my favorite. I love the Cincinnati, the long one. I love French breakfast radish, but hands down, the watermelon radish is my favorite simply because of the way it looks. All radish is going to be a little bit on the spicy side, some a little more spicy than others. I love the watermelon radish because it is gorgeous. And not surprising, a customer favorite is watermelon radish. Maybe because I talk about it all the time. If you asked me what my favorite radish was, I'd say radish. I'd say watermelon radish. So that is it for my radishes and for customer favorites on the radishes. Now we're on to squash. Squash is, some people have a love-hate relationship with squash because of the bugs, because of the long seasons. If you want a short season a short season summer squash, go with the white scallop squash. It is the fastest maturing squash I have ever grown. I was able to start seeds in July and harvest them in 42 days. Hands down, the fastest squash I've ever grown. But not necessarily my favorite. Inga says Hubbards. I love the blue Hubbards. So my top picks for squash are Tromboncino. Love it. You can harvest it as a winter squash. You can harvest it as a summer squash. It's vining, so it's up off the ground, which is awesome. I love Seminole Pumpkin. It is more pest resistant. Same with the Tromboncino. Candy Roaster, North Georgia. Gorgeous and delicious. It is fantastic for storing. So if you are growing a bunch of squash and you want to store them, that is an amazing one. And then also for a winter squash is Gill's Golden Pippin Acorn Squash. So I like acorn squash and I love stuffed acorn squash, but the Gill's Golden Pippin is perfect as a personal squash. So sometimes the bigger acorn squash is just too much for a single meal if you're sharing it like as a side. But the Gill's Golden Pippin is fantastic if you're going to stuff it as a side, or you just scoop it out and eat it. But the Gill's Golden Pippin is a fantastic acorn squash as well. Now, customer favorites. The top sellers at Mary's Heirloom Seeds for squash are Black Beauty Zucchini, which is fantastic as well. It's just, I like something that I can grow that isn't readily available at the store. If you go to the grocery store and there's those green zucchinis, chances are it's a Black Beauty zucchini. Caserta zucchini, that's a really pretty one. It's kind of a striped one. And then you have crookneck, golden crookneck squash. Again, something you can get at the grocery store. And then Waltham butternut and spaghetti squash. So if I walked into my grocery store right now, I could probably get most of those. But the stuff that I mentioned that are my top favorites, you're not going to find those in the store. Now, if you're just joining me, I got a couple announcements that I shared earlier. In the description section of this video, you'll find a link to my comprehensive planting guide. You'll also find a link to the new arrivals for 2025 and a lot of great information about getting started in a garden. What's not there is the announcement that I promised, and that is right now, January 16th through January 21st of 2025, you can save 10% off. And yes, it's the busiest time of year for us, but I also know that people are maybe needing a little extra or maybe needing a little help this year. And so use code GROW2025. I don't care if you don't need any help, extra help. Maybe you just want extra seeds, or maybe you just want to save a little on your next order. You can save 10% on your seed order right now if you use code GROW2025 at checkout. You have to use it before you check out, because I cannot apply a discount after your order is already done. And now for my favorites, heirloom tomatoes. I love growing heirloom tomatoes. When people ask me what I do, and I say I sell heirloom seeds and I teach people how to grow food, and they say heirloom, like tomatoes, because that's like one of the more common things that people associate with heirloom seeds. And if you've ever had an heirloom seed or an heirloom tomato that you've grown in your garden compared to a store-bought one, it's store-bought is just tastes like disappointment, honestly. And I mentioned Jess at Roots and Refuge, and I think she said that not too long ago either. The flavor profile of a homegrown tomato is just no comparison. And I grew up with my granny growing homegrown tomatoes. She grew Romas because that's what she liked. And our family would come at different times of the day just to make a tomato sandwich at our house. She always had loads of Roma tomatoes on her counter. Let's see. Asia Joe says, I'm going to sweet talk my husband right after this live for just one little order of seeds. What's one little order? All right. So my favorite heirloom tomatoes. Number one, hands down, Cherokee Purple. It will always be in my garden. It will always be something that I will grow every year. Number two is Matt's Wild Cherry. It was one of the best producing cherry tomatoes this year. It produced throughout our entire summer. It never stopped producing. So I had tomatoes on my salad all year long. Japanese Black Trifle. It's not something you really think about. It's a larger pear tomato. It's not like the yellow pear, like the teeny one, but it's a pear shaped. So it's a big-ish tomato. It's not a beefsteak or anything. But the Japanese Black Trifle, I cut up the Cherokee Purple and the Japanese Black Trifle, and I gave them to my husband on a plate. And he liked the Japanese Black Trifle. He said it was on the sweeter side compared to the Cherokee Purple. So that's another favorite of ours. And also a Zoichka. It is yellow, it is sweet, it is gorgeous, and it is delicious. So the Azoichka is a yellow one that I absolutely love. Off-Grid World says a cherry tomato. I'd like to grow that indoors during winter. Thoughts? You would need to provide plenty of space and plenty of light, but you can definitely do it. And then you'd also need some sort of way, like a fan, to help with pollination. But it's been done. Now, customer favorites. I got the top three. The top three customer favorites of heirloom tomatoes at Mary's Heirloom Seeds are the Black Cherry, the Homestead, and the Cherokee Purple. So I got one out of all those for customer favorites versus what I like. But again, it's not something that you're really going to find in the grocery store. So it's definitely something that I am growing more of. So it's just the uniqueness, but also the flavor profiles. It's not just, hey, I can't get this in the store. It's, hey, this is so much tastier. You want flavorful food, you want nutrient dense food, yes, but you also want to enjoy the experience. I want to enjoy the experience anyway. So those are my favorites. So before I close up, I'll give you a little recap. I added an events page at marysheirloomseeds.com. So in the description section, you can find a link to marysheirloomseeds.com. Not the events page, but you'll have to find that yourself. And I've got events coming up in East Texas all year long. It's much busier this year than it was last year. So I'm teaching seed saving at Bob Wells Nursery at Sorrel Farm. Sorry about that. And that is, I believe, January 25th. And then I am going to Longview to the Gregg County Master Gardeners, and I'm going to teach building healthy soil. And I believe that's February 22nd. You'll have to check out the specifics. I will be speaking to the Kaufman County Master Gardeners on Monday, March 5th. As soon as I have complete details on that, I'll share with you. And then I'll be teaching 2 demos at the East Texas State Fair. And that is Friday, September 19th at 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. And I will be adding way more next month. I'm going to my nephew's school, and I'm going to be doing a seed starting in person with the kids. It's super exciting. I had this opportunity. My sister said her son is going to a new school. They've got a greenhouse. They've got a school garden. As an elective, they have gardening. And I'm like, and the principal just called me today and he said, your sister said you're like a seed person and maybe we can work something out. So I get to teach 2 different classes. Super excited on that. And that'll be next month. So excited. All right, everybody. I am Mary from Mary's Heirloom Seeds signing off. If I missed any of your questions, send me an email. My email is mary@marysheirloomseeds.com. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. And happy planting, everybody.